What is up, guys? Four Corners is back with another episode. I am your host, Ray. You can find me online at Rayvon Hackshaw on X, on Instagram, on I'm RV Hack on Reddit, but I'm not really on Reddit anymore. And in an effort to have healthy conversations, I brought in some guests. I have first up a rousing round of applause, yay, for NBA Chicken. What's going on, my guy?
Hey, nothing much. Just chilling.
Nice, nice. How on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your excitement level going, just a scant 3, 4 days from the playoffs?
Um, I'm kind of at a 7. I'm somewhat excited, but then I'm very nervous that this could be like the last 6 to 7 games of the season. So a lot of nerves in there, but excited to see what the team can show up and do.
Can I be honest? I'm at like a 9, almost a 10, just
Oh
because to
wow.
me at this point, fuck it. Like it can't get worse than how we were feeling 2 weeks ago. And what do you have to
Right.
lose? Oh, you're not going to win a second title. Okay, that's all right. But you could, on the other hand, actually win a second title. So,
True.
um, yeah, here to discuss further the odds of that happening and the first step to that process. CT Fazio 24. What's going on, my guy?
What's up, Ray? What's up, Chicken? How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Good, good. Chilling.
Doing
Got
good.
shades on. You know what it is.
Got to put mine on too.
Oh
No,
shit!
not yet. Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet. We're not ready yet.
When I'm
Okay.
in
Well,
when I'm in the discussion mode, then we'll put the shades on.
okay, I understand. I got to do it just for the intro. Got to bring the vibes up a little bit. But yeah, it's been a minute since we chatted. Have you been feeling about the Nuggets, about any firings or lack of retention among executives or higher level Nugget staff, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean it's been definitely a whirlwind of a season. Um, Usually the Nugget seasons are a bit like non eventful for the most part. This season I feel like has been pretty action packed as far as the firings were concerned. Who's been in and out of the lineup? Um, new rotations. The Russ fans in my mentions all year, which is pretty funny. Um, but no, it's been definitely I feel like it's gone quick, but also it's gone pretty slow at the same time. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the Malone news, the Booth news, was definitely uh, like a different kind of event happening compared to what we've seen. The Nuggets have been, a pretty stable organization, I'd say, over since Jokic has kind of came into the fold. So to see Malone fired and Booth as well, was kind of threw everybody for a loop. I think.
Uh, Thrown for a loop. That's a good description of what happened. I definitely had to throw out some like, hey, is this real feelers to anybody I knew in the who was that connected in the community, because it's right there with the Luca trade of things I did not expect, things I did not have on my bingo board. Um, yeah, but okay, was it the right call, and where do you stand on the a lot of people I think are maybe they're 10% Calvin, 90% Malone, 10% Malone, 90% Calvin. Where do you land on the some people 50-50? Where do you land on like maybe like the blame scale, if there is such a thing?
I mean, I think there's probably like two people on the timeline who were like 90 Malone, 10 Booth. I think. Uh, I mean, for me, I mean, I think with Malone, I would have given him. I know Chicken was in the space we hosted not too long ago, right after the firings happened. Um, I mean, I think Malone probably deserved to have the end of the year. I mean, just based on his history of running the franchise, 10 years as coach, and he's won a championship, the first championship in their history. I think he deserved a little bit more respect, in my opinion, as far as not just canning him right before the playoffs and giving him an extra chance to see maybe he could have salvaged the team. Maybe could have won a round or two, right? Could they have won the championship? Maybe. But, you never know. You have Jokic on your team, you have Murray, you have Porter, you have Gordon. I think that core four group is going to give you a chance uh, every year at least to be competitive. Um, so I think with Malone, I think he definitely deserved more respect. I feel like as far as his history with the team. Um, I kind of feel like as well, like he was like a pretty good ambassador for the Nuggets as well. Just if you look like he kind of like represented the underdog mentality of the team, where the team was a laughing stock for a long time. Then he came into the fold and kind of brought a seriousness to the team, brought a kind of culture of family and playing hard and you know being a good teammate. So I feel as though that part is a bit sad to see him go. Do I think it was the right move at that particular point? I mean, I think after the year, depending on how it was going to be, I mean, I think it was justified. ev- Eventually, at the end, I think like I said, 10 years for someone's a long time. I feel as though the team kind of gave up on him, which again probably says more about the players. Honestly, I think that you know they shouldn't have tuned him out like that, but it was obvious, and when you have guys who aren't playing hard anymore, and kind of basically like phase out the coach, I think then it's time for a change. But yeah, if we're talking blame game, I mean Booth definitely more than Malone for sure. I mean, just look at the back half of the roster. There's barely any playable players at this point. So shame to see Malone go, but I'm looking forward to kind of a new direction.
Chicken, how about you? How are you feeling after the Malone and Booth firings?
Yeah, I was definitely shocked as well. I like CT thought that he would at least get to the end of the season, and I just thought Booth's contract was going to expire and they were just not going to renew it. So to have that jolt, as um, I think Josh Kroenke said, it was kind of a jolt to the fans as well. This is the playoffs right around the corner. We just saw Jenkins get fired about 2 weeks ago, and everyone thought that was so shocking. And then to now have Malone, who was, I think, the fourth or fifth most tenured coach in the NBA, fired on a random day of the week. Yeah, that was pretty out of nowhere. And like CT said, pretty disrespectful to his legacy. So I don't know. I guess it had to be done in that kind of shocking fashion to get the team kind of woken up, but it's a shame it had to happen that way.
It is a bummer. I'm going to be honest. I'm not mad about it. This might be the sunglasses talking a little bit, but I don't feel like anybody is innocent in this scenario. I can't help but feel like part of why the back roster is the way it is also the way Malone navigated having when he did get the guys he wanted, to play on the back half of the roster. I think there's some responsible usage issues there. And I think it's a lot of what he said last year, but I think he's good at his job. I personally think Booth is good at his job. It's just the beef was too much. The beef
So,
was too strong.
right, I got a question for your question.
Okay.
Do you think that Malone was intentionally not playing certain Booth guys to kind of further his kind of stance that these players were, I would say, maybe not rotation caliber on a competitive team?
I can't go and tell you explicitly, oh, this time, this guy not playing or playing was about Malone not liking a guy. What I can say is I do feel like there's, I'm going to use a legal term, a preponderance of evidence that says to me that Malone is not above being petty if he doesn't like you. I think about, for example, do you remember that time Bol started a game because it was Kevin Durant? Like there was like, oh, you're not playing, you're not playing, you're not playing. Hey, now you're going to start versus Kevin Durant, and I'm just going to let you get cooked. Just so you know, that you're trash. The number of various like personal and internal stories that are coming out since the firing, some of the things, him saying some things he said about Jalen Pickett. I think, that's kind of like, it's not, I don't think it's as uncommon as people might imagine in NBA locker rooms and with the kind of power dynamics that exist with coaches. So I don't want to make it seem like Moch is uniquely terrible. I don't think that's fair to him. I think he's traditional in oh I only know that he made fun of Jalen Pickett, Grace. There's just a lot of I can't quote anyone. So that's kind of I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth either. But
No, that
yeah,
was in the
I just
piece. Like, I don't know if you saw it, Chicken. Like, that was in the piece that they had come out and said that basically Malone was not playing Booth guys intentionally because of his stance. Like that was something. I'm not saying that like I heard anything about that was like written in the Athletic or one of the pieces that came out that Booth was
Yeah.
not intentionally not playing some of Booth's draft picks, you can call it, or players that he signed on the team. Like
right.
that was something that was written. And again, like I do think, like Ray was saying, I do think that the tension had reached a point where I think it was affecting Jokic. I think you could kind of tell. Yeah, it was written in a lot of pieces. I think you can kind of tell with Jokic that it was affecting him just by his attitude, his demeanor on the court. Um, and I just think that a move had to be made at some point, whether it was the GM or the coach. And Kroenke went with both. You know, he called a stalemate basically, and we'll see if Adelman can come in and they're on a 3-game win streak, and maybe he can turn the tide a little bit and see what he could do. Um, Again, with Booth, I mean, I was willing to like see if somebody else can come in and kind of clean up some of the stuff that had happened. But with Malone again as well, if the players are tuning him out, and if Jokic is out on him, then I unfortunately have to be out on him too. I mean, there's nothing else really to be said there. So,
Yep.
You know what's interesting? I always felt like Michael Malone coached in a way that made it. I think he's very cognizant of his prior experience in Sacramento and about being like seemingly randomly fired. He kind of made it hard to fire him. When Kroenke was talking about the process he was going through and thinking about it in past terms, yeah, like every time there was a real lull in the vibes and things didn't seem like they could get any better, oh, they go on an 8-win run or a 3-win run or something, and that's worth some credit, I guess. I just want to give that to him. I mean, being hard to fire will give you a lot of job security, and uh, but yeah, so. Chicken, I want to ask you this before we kind of maybe move on, unless you have more you want to add. Do you think that the firings, how far do you think these firings can take Denver from like an emotional springboard perspective?
I feel like these type of jolts or changes only have a small amount of time where it'll be like really potent and in the kind of forefront of everyone's mind. And I think with the attrition of the playoffs coming, the amount of minutes everyone's going to be playing, the intensity of everything, I don't even know if they'll have time to really think about, Malone's been fired. I don't even think they have time to think about that. They have to just be in the moment. It's the playoffs. It's time to lock in. But it's really just about, can Adelman be that voice that's actually gonna, I don't know, bring everyone into focus? And can they listen to him? Can they trust him? Do they really believe in the words he's saying? Those are the really important things, I think, that are the after effects of the firing, because everything's about the playoffs. And I don't know if this is going to have the lasting effect that many people might think it has, but I guess we're going to see in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely, I think so. It'll be interesting to find out. CT, before we totally shift off this, on a scale of, I asked Chicken this before the show, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how much how excited are you for the Nuggets going into this playoff season? I guess, does the firing give you like optimism? are you a little bit more even keel, maybe about like, okay, well, they might win a round or two, or do you think it's like, well, damn, you just fired your coach, go get ready for Cancun?
I mean, I think with the direction the team was going, again, they basically gave up on Malone. It's not like a hot take. I mean, just looking at their play, they were not playing hard anymore. I think there were certain kind of just trends of looking at the defense. Obviously, was not good anymore. And again, the defense hasn't been good over the past 3 games either. But there is more of a buy-in. It looks like there's more of a I think emphasis to communicate. You see Jokic huddling up guys, and I think this has kind of galvanized the group a little bit. Again, is that moment something that's only a 3 game kind of sequence? We'll find out. But this is the playoffs now, where everyone's the energy turns up a notch, the intensity turns up. And again, the Nuggets have to bring it. So, do I think like this is like a season changing move? I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not, but I'm not gonna say it is, because just like I said, they basically gave up on Malone. The past 3 games, they've been playing extremely hard. Again, are they good enough to win the championship? We're gonna find out. And for me, when it comes to the seeding purposes, the Minnesota, I just think is so in Denver's head at this point that if it was a 3-6 matchup, I think the Nuggets would have lost in the first round. So 4-5, I think against the Clippers is going to be a tough matchup. And again, if they win this series, they play OKC next, so it's going to get even tougher. But I would rather play OKC than Minnesota, I think, when it comes to playoff matchups. So again, got to take it one series at a time. But I think this maybe could have galvanized the group a little bit. I think it maybe was a springboard to the playoffs, and we'll see how they do. But again, I haven't seen anything with Adelman where it's like he's really doing anything much different, other than he's like playing the best 5 guys to close the game. He's been like pretty vocal about that. Maybe offensively, he'll be a bit more of a egalitarian kind of look, where he's drawing up more plays for Mike, drawing more plays up for Aaron. Jamal, same thing. And I think we kind of saw it over the past 3 games, where I feel like, I don't know what you guys think about it, but the offense got really, really Jokic centric toward the end of Malone's tenure, like where he was like having to score 60 points. And for me, it was like, I think the surrounding talent is more talented than just, stand there while Jokic posts up into oblivion every time. And I think the last 3 games we saw, Mike had a good game, in the 3 game stretch. You had Aaron had like 30 something points against Memphis to really clinch like the 4 seed. Again, I think Jamal has kind of found a rhythm a little bit. Christian's obviously they've been playing really well. So I think, when it comes to the Nuggets and their playoff chances, you have to have some other guys other than Jokic kind of, carry the weight. And maybe Adeline recognizes that. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think one of the elements to the way they've been playing these last 3 games, like you said, there's more, I guess everyone has more of a green light, you could say. And I think there was a lot of stiffness with the offense when it was so Jokic centric, so that when a player finally, like Mike, gets a shot that's kind of open in the corner, he's hesitant to take it because he's really not that warmed up. He hasn't been involved in the offense the majority of the game, and now he's just kind of rushed into this moment of taking a shot. And I think in these last 3 games, we've seen everyone get a little more piece of the pie, so to speak. We've seen Jokic's touches per game drop. I mean, he was at north of 110, and now he's hovering around 90, which I think is one of the more telling things, telling stats for how everything's been going. And I think now players are a little more emboldened to just take those shots. I think Pickett had that game against the Kings where it was like, where did this come from? And it's probably just been in him all season, but he hasn't had that green light to just take those shots. And he hit that dagger to close that game out first time Adelman was the head coach. So I don't know. I think having the juices flowing for everyone is just going to be better for the offense overall.
Yeah, I think it's a confidence thing. Can I channel my own inner angry Twitter fan for a second?
Yeah.
Sure.
There was a moment where I wanted to give up on Malone. I remember one night he came out in a press conference and Glasses are back on. One night, this man comes out and says the offense will take care of itself.
I agree. That's
My
a
God.
problem. That's a problematic quote. I'll agree with you, Ray.
I look, defense is important, rebounding is important, hustle, that's important. Offense doesn't just it's not an autonomous vehicle where you just kind of like let it go do its thing. It's even your Roomba gets stuck. You know what I'm saying? Even your little automated dust machine thing we have all over our houses, those get stuck sometimes. You gotta be a little more thoughtful about like the offense you produce and who gets shots and the quality of those shots, because I do think they lead to, if you like defense and you like rebounding, some things lead to harder defense. Some things lead to more difficult, shots on the other end to rebound out of and that sort of thing. So um, that was like the first crack in the arm for me. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's growing as a person and as a coach. I think that's just how I feel. I think he's a better coach today than he was when he came in 2014.
14.
14, summer of 14, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not enough. And to your point, towards the end, it's so Jokic centric, and I think especially that confidence bit and opening up a little bit more opportunity for everybody else. Brandon mentioned playing the right players at the right time. I mean, I really like the approach that Adelman has taken in terms of being just open-minded about who is going to work in a certain situation. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh, well, Pickett's out and I'm never going to play him. And it doesn't have to be, okay, Russ is out and I hate him and I'm never going to play him. Sometimes some things just call for something, and sometimes it just calls for something else. And maybe some guys have it that day and other guys don't. And I think that lets the players feel like, okay, I can just kind of be myself and do my best. And it's not gonna punish the team, because if I'm out there, it's because coach believes in me. And B, there is a level of reward for, I don't want to say he didn't reward you, but it feels like you're not as judged harshly. You're not on this like fearful, oh, if I play badly, I'm going to get yanked and I'm never going to see the floor again. And Malone doesn't like me and I'm scared, and Jokic is here and I don't want to disappoint him and I'm scared. And that's just how they looked a lot of the time. They look scared. They don't want to shoot these threes. They don't want to take these open lanes to go to the rim, that sort of thing. So I'm liking what Allen is doing. I mean, yeah, like Peter's mentioning, wins are nice. Hasn't lost yet, so that's a positive. And yeah, the two guard lineups, just two.
How about 3?
How about 4? Hey, I've seen 4. I remember
Why stuff there?
PJ Dozier at power forward. I remember that.
What a time!
Absolutely.
What a time! What a time! And yeah, so I want to give them like a salute, like RIP. We commend you for your service to both of them, but I'm also happy that they. I feel more optimism than I felt all season. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
what do they have to lose?
Yeah.
And if they won this title, it would be the coolest title ever, I think.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
one of them. Like, the movie is going to be lit if I mean, the intensity, the emotional gravitas of this moment. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. But I want to take a little bit of a detour, and before we move on to the second segment, I got a plug, maybe 2. First things first, CT is writing, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to kind of plug what you got going on.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, I got a little bit of a piece article in the works. Gonna touch on, I think, the Malone Booth dynamic. I think somewhere where both of them went wrong, both where they went right as well. But then also too, I'll have some more, probably some more insight, when the season's over. So that was kind of just like a little bit of a little bit of a sneak peek, but won't be out until after the playoffs. But appreciate it though.
Yeah, no problem. My own plug is that I am selling baked goods. I'm opening a farmer stall. I live in Old Town, Nevada. We've got a nice farmers market opening up this summer. Um, all things go my way. I will be there selling some of the best cookies in the city. Insomnia ain't got shit on me, and so check out my Twitter for more information on that. But yeah, let's get back into it. So NBA Chicken, we followed each other for a while. I've seen some of your takes. I don't hate interacting with you, which is really nice. There's a lot of people on Twitter. No disrespect to anybody listening who is also on Twitter right now. I don't want to talk to most people, and you might be most people, but you might not be. You might not be. So good to kind of face to face ish meet you, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about you. Like, tell me about yourself. As obviously you're a Nuggets fan, love the throwback jersey, and the chip hat. So how'd you get here? How'd you become a member of the community?
Yeah. I grew up in the South where almost, I would say 90% of my friends were Lakers fans. This was peak Kobe and Shaq era. And I just didn't want to go with the flow back then. And I wanted to pick a football team. So and my favorite color was orange. So I picked the Broncos. And I was like 8 years old when that happened. And I decided that I would just stick with every team that was in the same city as the Broncos. So I became a Nuggets fan that same time frame.
You also
Um,
became a Rockies fan.
yeah, a Rockies
Hmm,
fan, a
that's
Mammoth
tough.
fan, an Outlaw fan, an Avalanche fan. So I've just stuck with them for over 20 years now. And about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, I decided to get on Twitter. I was mostly on Reddit, and I had a few of my posts go really viral because I was doing a lot of video editing back then. Um, and then I decided to try to get on Twitter, and I
Your
basically
Reddit
had
name.
like, um, I don't remember. I haven't been on Reddit in like 2 years at this point,
It's been
but
some
I
time
will
for me
look it
as
up
well.
in a second, or I'll message you after the show.
Yeah, we might
But
have crossed paths at some point. You never know.
yeah, probably. Um, and so I got on Twitter. Got to like a dozen followers and just thought that would be it. But I saw a really dumb take at one point, like 4 years ago, and I was like, I think I'm smarter than this person. Like maybe I can fire off some of my takes and people will agree with me. And that just kind of slowly gone from there. So I just crossed like 1,000 followers a few weeks ago, and so that was like a milestone I never thought I'd get to. So it's pretty cool. And CT knows I'm a draft junkie. So I love grinding tape, looking at players, creating big boards, and yeah, I write about 3 articles a year, but they're like 10 to 15 pages. So
He makes them count. He
um,
makes them count for
Nice.
sure.
A
yeah,
perfectionist. I like it.
yeah. So yeah,
And the
that's
CBA
that's
too,
about
right?
it for
Chicken,
me.
you kind of you're pretty good with the CBA as well, and he's probably like my go-to person, like for CBA analysis and things like that, because I'm still lost when it comes to that stuff. So
Yeah, I decided to read a good chunk of the CBA when it first came out 2 years ago, and I'm trying to keep up with all of the changes and nuances of how it'll affect teams. So, yeah, I guess that's one of my other niche things with basketball. So that's pretty much me.
Nice. What was your last article?
I did a trade deadline article, kind of outlining in tiers the players that the Nuggets could go after. I do that pretty much every year. I do a draft. Um, Guide article as well. So the trade deadline one, I had a pretty fun idea in there, but then I think it was Chris Boucher that was traded like the day after the article. So like my favorite, like final quarter of the article didn't matter anymore. But yeah,
That's a bummer, but I'm sure your efforts are invaluable, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out in the future. I am trying to do more reading. I am. You're like physically. I love audiobooks. Been on audiobooks for a while, but trying to get back into actually reading things this year. Um, Crushing some bell hooks, if anybody knows what that is. But yeah, shout out to you for that. And yeah, I guess we can get into the playoffs. Playoffs. Talking about playoffs. I'm excited. I'm a little scared, a little bit, because this is. I guess I don't CT. I don't know if you have been like any opening thoughts, but I am nervous about how little data I feel like I have mentally on. Like I can watch the Clippers, but how much has Kawhi been there? They look good, but they haven't played Denver. And Denver similarly is this whole sort of, I don't want to say they're a whole new team, I'm not, you're still the same players. So that's still true. But from a mental and emotional standpoint, I have a hard time comparing this Nuggets team to the ones earlier in the season that played the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, the first thing is that Kawhi didn't play in any of the matchups. I think that's definitely important because he's going to be probably one of the top two players in the series, at least. I think. I mean, I think Jokic is going to be the best one, but I mean, probably after that, you have your pick of Harden, Kawhi, or Murray as your next guys in that mix. Um, I think the Nuggets have historically guarded Kawhi pretty well because they have Gordon. I think Gordon is a prime matchup for Kawhi. He's a guy who Kawhi's not going to beat you with quickness. He's going to beat you with strength and tough shot making. And Gordon is a guy who, again, has been pretty bad defensively this year from a standpoint of like being an extra stopper guy. He can't guard laterally like quick players at the moment. I mean, I'm hoping that could change in the playoffs, but anytime he's had a switch on a quicker guard, he's been toast. But with Kawhi, I think he actually has the current ability and historical kind of track record to be able to not stop Kawhi, but able to slow him down considerably. I think, which is a good sign. And I think Harden's the guy I think is going to be a problem for Denver. Just his pick and roll, navigation, isolation shot making on take your pick. He's gonna draw up Murray, MPJ into the action repeatedly. We're gonna see how Adelman kind of combats that. Is he gonna have them just switch and be on an island, or is he going to have them actually stunt and recover? Because if one of the criticisms I had with Malone is that we were easily conceding switches just for the hell of it. I'm kind of curious to see how that pans out now. I'm actually pretty okay with Murray guarding Harden. I think it's MPJ on Harden. I think that's a bit worrying, but funny enough, I actually prefer MPJ getting switched onto Kawhi rather than Murray getting switched onto Kawhi. So it's kind of two different matchups there. But I think the Nuggets have a good chance to win the series. I really do. I don't think the Clippers present the problems that like a Timberwolves did. And I think that's where the Nuggets have always had kind of historical issues there, but should be a good series, and I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think those are all a lot of thoughtful things to say there. Chicken and wanted to go to you. How do you feel about, in particular, like the Michael Porter situation in terms of approaching the Clippers? I think in a lot of ways, he's maybe made some strides defensively when he is locking in, especially in one-on-one coverage. But at the same time, still a lot of limitations there in terms of his mobility, his foot speed. Sometimes he looks like a guy whose back hurts. That's all I'm going to say. But how high are you on him in this matchup in terms of, I don't know, just what your expectations are for him?
Yeah. I think offensively, this is going to be a little bit tough for him. I think they have a lot of point of attack defensive bodies that they can throw at him, especially in the non-Jokic minutes. I'm really curious what kind of actions they run for him. Is he going to be coming off of pin down screens? I feel like a lot of his actions need to be off of movement because in a playoff setting, I'm really not comfortable with his handle to be in any kind of isolation scenario. I'd much rather him be playing off of someone, whether it be Murray or Gordon being a primary ball handler slash playmaker that just kind of allows him to move around and make his, get his offense in a little more dynamic ways than just spot up shooting in the corner. And then defensively for him, um, I just need some good defensive rebounding. I need him to find a body. I need him to be able to at least make a dent in Zubac's offensive rebounding streak that he's on right now. Like, I think that's one of the more underrated things, and that was one of the things that when we were arguing about a Levine trade, I was like, at least Michael Porter Jr. can rebound. Like, so that part of the defensive floor, he's going to really need to excel at in this series.
Well, I might have.
But
I don't know. I might
You
have
mean
I
lost
this
guess
you
we're
for a
ticket?
going to
second.
have.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. What was the last thing y'all heard me say?
You cut out a bit.
In this series, you kind of cut out for me at the end of at the end of a sentence.
Okay. I think I was just saying that I didn't want to see Michael Porter Jr. I didn't. I'm not trying to say that he should be a stopper of Kawhi or Harden, but he has had some reps in the past in the playoff setting where he's been able to just shuffle his feet and just keep someone in front of him, and that's the kind of effort I hope he can bring on a night-to-night basis.
He is very tall. I think that's one of the things that as much as I think he gets a lot of flack for missing rebounds or what have you, I at the end of the day, if you want to I'm not worried about. Let me put it this way: I'm not worried about James Harden shooting a ton of step back threes in his face any more than I am about that happening with anybody else. It's mostly the fouls. If he can keep his fouls down on the perimeter, not get grabby, I don't mind if, for example, I think James Harden is going to be the matchup we're talking about. If he gets a lot of like mid-range pull-ups, I'll kind of live with that as long as he's not getting open layups and as long as he's not drawing ridiculous grifting fouls on Mike. I think that's a point in Denver's favor. Yeah, I'm optimistic. How about Jamal? Chicken, I'll go back to you. How are you feeling about Jamal's season so far in his, one of the things I think about with the Nuggets is like the Nuggets of October aren't the Nuggets of May and June. And nowhere is that more true than Jamal Murray. How are you feeling about his potential in a series where, I think a lot of people are questioning maybe his health, even though he's been playing really relatively well, doing what we kind of expect of him more of late.
Yeah, that is the only thing I care about with Jamal. Is he healthy? Because when he is, he's been on and he's been great. You can see it just in the playoffs last year. He was dealing with some minor injuries and he wasn't really himself. But we've seen when he's healthy, he's been fantastic. He can take his game to the next level. And I'd say it sounds like he's around 80% right now, which was I think that might be better than the health level he was at last playoff. So it's a great place in terms of his health. But in terms of matchups, I'm really concerned about the amount of length and defensive perimeter defenders that the Clippers have. You have you have Jones Jr. Kawhi can potentially guard him. They just have enough bodies defensively that I think can, and their length can really bother Jamal, I think. So, of course, the two-man game is going to be pretty unstoppable, but I'm really worried about the non-Jokic minutes. Will he really be able to take over the offense? He lives on that tough shot diet, and sometimes it's really hard to watch when he's missed like 3 step-back fadeaways in a row or something. So I really want to see him attack the rim as much as possible and really get the other guys involved in the offense. I don't want it to be a Jamal Murray show every time. Even though that's worked in the past, it's good to kind of move the ball around a little bit.
CT, what would you say if there's something you're looking at for Jamal, maybe as an indicator of, okay, this is going well for him, this is not going well for him, what would you say that is? And what maybe are your thoughts about even just the implications of a series like this, where maybe I think this is like not to say this is his fault entirely, but the last 4 years he's been healthy for one playoff run. I mean, what does a series and maybe this playoff run as a whole mean for Jamal?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ramifications. I think across the board for these playoffs, and we'll see at the end of the year. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to something I'm kind of writing about now. Is I'm sure you guys watched Josh Kroenke's press conference the other day after the firings. It's kind of interesting to me where he kind of alluded to the fact that he wants to give these guys a chance with. I'm thinking new leadership. That's what he
Mm.
kind of alluded to me. So I don't know, depending on the playoffs, if he's going to run it back again. I mean, I'm sure if they're first round out, I'm sure there'd probably be definitely a lot of advocates wanting a change for sure. Um, but yeah, I think this is a huge playoffs for Jamal. He's going to have to convert. And I think he did. He has in the championship run last year was definitely a bit more hit or miss, definitely more on the miss side. Um, but I think you had a pretty interesting question about the indicator part, and I think with Jamal, we saw last year against the Wolves, right? He was getting completely targeted by Towns at the post repeatedly. And I think with Jamal, the more he gets targeted defensively, the more he gets bogged down and tired. And I think that bleeds into his offense. Um, I don't think there's a guy really on the Clippers that's going to like bully Jamal. Like that's taxing getting in the post and like trying to hold your ground and trying to rebound off that as well. I think with like guys like Kawhi is just going to shoot over the top of Jamal. Like I don't think Jamal is going to really have to battle him like inside for positioning or things like that. I mean, I'm sure he's probably going to get some post touches and things like that. But and Harden's a guy who's he's just gonna blow right past you. He's not a guy who's like physically taxing for like you know gonna like really bludgeon you. So um yeah, I mean overall, I think it's a big playoffs for all those guys. Definitely Mike, AG, Jamal, because it's possible one of them gets traded this summer when a new regime comes in potentially or a new coach. I think that the new regime or whoever it is not going to be as married to those guys as like Booth was or as Tim Conley was, right? I think that's something that I think is probably changes. Change is a good thing, but also I was advocating for this year like not to really mess it up because I just didn't think Booth was going to be back, so I didn't want him to like make a panic trade and then set the franchise back further than he already did. But this series for me, I just think the Nuggets have a good chance. I think they have a good chance. I don't think they have like matchups where it's like they're sunk like the whole series. Like kind of felt hopeless a lot of the time in that series. So um Jamal's probably gonna have to. I mean, baseline gonna have to probably be like 3B, 3A as far as like tiers of players in the series. Like Jokic number one, Kawhi Leonard and Harden 2, 3, and then Murray after that. If Murray can get to number three, if he gets to number two, I think the Nuggets are winning at 5. I mean, I think that's just how it goes. So it's
You
gonna be
never
tough though,
know.
but he's gonna have to convert. Yeah. I mean he's done it in the past. I mean, look at the series he had against the Suns. Look at the series he had against the Heat. I mean, he's proven it before. All depends on the health.
How about the Jokic rules? Do you feel like, I mean, talking about pressure against Jamal, I think a lot has been said this year by many fan bases. I think about how they want to approach Jokic and say, "Oh, just be violent, just put small players on the court and just be violent, and everything's going to go your way. And get all the foul calls you need. They're not going to call much in his favor." Um, what do you think about that, and maybe any other quirks the Clippers might throw at Denver systemically around Jokic in terms of maybe offsetting mismatches or anything like that, and how their attempt to stop the Nuggets offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think at times I think they're probably gonna have Batum guard Jokic with Zubac roaming. We've seen that a couple times before. Even Kawhi on Jokic and have Zubac roaming. But I'm curious to see what Adelman kind of puts out there because I don't think the Nuggets had enough counters this year for like gimmick defenses. Um, the Lakers, of course, had their gimmick defense that they put out there. Teams were boxing and won Jokic at one point, and for in my perspective, I don't think they had a really decent solve for that. And Like that's a pretty elementary level defense to kind of play against. And that was another thing where I was kind of critical of Malone about. But I think it's a big playoffs for Adelman. He's not only coaching for a job, but he's coaching for uh I think, with the Nuggets, he's coaching for outside of the Nuggets as well. So but yeah, I think the Clippers, as far as their defense is concerned, they're gonna probably, play a lot of wings guarding Jokic at times, take Zubac off, depending on if he's in foul trouble or not. If they get Zubac in foul trouble, I think the series is over because they don't have any other bigs. So that's really
Yep.
what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. And is what's Zubac's role defensively? Can you get him in foul trouble? Like Chicken was saying, can you play Zubac can you play Jokic off of the move more? Get him off of movement instead of just being in the post. And we've seen that the last 3 games. Like Jokic has not been resolved to the post a lot of the time, which is great. I think that's the easiest way to guard Jokic is if you just station him in the post against those kind of defenses. So
Hmm.
um, I think offensively they're probably gonna have to have Jokic play in a variety of different settings. And if Murray's getting pressured, I do think Christian has the ability, and AG as well, to initiate offense and kind of play more Jamal off the ball, have him sprint off the screens. He's a great shooter off of movement, and that's something we haven't seen a lot of. I think honestly, like him running off of movement, off of screens. Same with Mike. So I think the Nuggets are pretty well equipped. It's just going to come down to the execution part on both ends, but particularly defensively. If the Nuggets are like we've seen this year for the majority of the time, it's not going to end well. I don't think.
Chicken, I'll throw this to you.
Yeah.
Patrick kind of mentions that in per Adam Mars, a man of my own height. Basically posing this question of who's James Harden going to guard? Talking about maybe putting forwards on Jokic and pulling Zubac away, or maybe even off the court. How important do you think it is to take advantage of James from a defensive perspective? That is to say, how do we attack him?
I think it's going to take some creative offensive sets, really bringing Harden in the action. Like we kind of just mentioned, how Jamal gets worn down when he has all these defensive forwards, better in the post. We have, AG and Jokic that can do that. And I'm going to assume that Harden is going to be on Christian Brown, most likely.
I was
And it's
thinking
going to take a lot of maybe like 45 cuts from Christian off ball. He needs to be moving, and I think that's something he does pretty well. Like, I'm thinking of like the UCLA action where you can have Brown attacking out of that, or Jamal bringing the ball up in those situations. It's something that I think will be easy to exploit, but I also want to say Harden can really get low in his stance and actually play some pretty good defense. He's got really fast hands, and he's actually pretty solid for a guard in the post, playing some low post defense. But he is older. I think Christian's speed and strength is something that they'd have to use in that kind of matchup. Not that Christian's really an ISO player, but his movement off ball needs to really tire Harden out. That's got to be the advantage in that kind of matchup.
I do think they're really nice. I mean, to put the glasses back on, the Clippers are a bunch of old ass men. Let's be honest. And I think if you outwork them, I think you can take advantage of the quote unquote youth advantage that Nuggets have. Another, I don't know if this is an advantage for them or for us, but I feel like this can also get a little bit personal. And we can manifest the power of petty by vis-a-vis one Russell Westbrook. CT, how do you feel about Russ going into a series where he's playing against his old teammate James Harden. Do you feel like that gives Denver some amount of advantage just because of the familiarity, or do you think that maybe the Clippers can get in Russ's head and that they might know some of his own kind of the triggers that bring him off the rails?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think Russ is actually a pretty good Harden defender. Just kind of looking at the historical matchup, not the data only, but just kind of like this year as well. Just seeing how he plays him, sitting on his right hand, forcing him right, sitting on his left hand, forcing him right, rather. But I think Russ defensively will be pretty good in this series against Kawhi or Harden. Same with Norm Powell as well. I think he's pretty good chasing off of screens as well, considering the kind of defensive personnel that we have. I think he's one of the better guys, able to kind of navigate screens. But yeah, like you said, with the other way as well, I think it could be a detriment just because Russ is facing his former team. Could incline him to go a little bit, turbo and try to make stuff happen that we've seen in the past. But I do think if we can find Russ's minutes a lot of with Jokic, I think that'll be a good way to go about it, comparatively to having Russ just play with the bench. But we'll see what happens with that.
I do think
Yeah,
there's.
I think Russ would need. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Chicken. You good? Go for it.
I was gonna say I think Russ could be one of the first subs in. So like around the 6 minute mark, 7 minute mark. Jamal's coming out, Russ is coming in, finishes the quarter out with Jokic on the court, and then he's right back out the game. Jamal comes in to start the second quarter, kind of thing. That's how I'm imagining that rotation kind of goes, especially if no one's in foul trouble. But that's one of the best ways to at least align him with the Jokic minutes, and that kind of keeps him around like 12 to 15 minutes in a playoff series, which I think I think I can stomach that if those are like 90% aligned with Jokic. So that's probably the best formula for success in this revenge series for him.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, if he's playing 15 minutes a game, I'd be pretty happy. Just because I think he brings such an intensity that it's not the first 15 minutes that I'm worried about. It's like the 30th to 35th minute that I worry about with Russ. I love what he does.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll bring all the tools of the trade to the situation in terms of playing guys the right way, being prepared from a film perspective. Also, it's something I wish a lot of people who play basketball just remembered a little bit more. Hey, everybody has a non-dominant hand. If you make them dribble with their non-dominant hand, they're not as good at it. That's why it's their non-dominant hand. And just something we could all do with remembering. But yeah, I'm happy that Russ is still involved, but in a way where there's some level of responsibility that Brandon mentioned, like pulling Russ when he's not looking right. It doesn't have to be for the whole game. Sometimes, hey, just a little quick breather, take a deep breath, find your zen, get back out there. It could be fine. But I will. Okay, kind of going. That's 6. So we've got a couple guys who I think kind of are in a similar bucket of defensive-minded players who you don't always know what you're getting from offensively. Fives asks, "Is this a Zeke series?" I'm also going to pose like a similar question: is this a Peyton Watson series? CT, I'll throw it to you. How do you feel about either of those two guys?
Peyton Watson, yes. I actually do think Peyton will be a little bit more of a vital player in the series than kind of what's being talked about right now. I think defensively, as a guy who can throw it Harden and Kawhi to slow them down a bit. Offensively, I think Payton's playing a little bit better as well as far as the shooting is concerned. I think he'll be able to get some nice cuts as far as a guy rolling to the rim, maybe getting on transition a bit. But again, the options are scarce, unfortunately, off the bench. But I do think Watson's going to have to play. He's going to have to play big minutes. This is not like last year where he's going into it and play one series and he's out the next. He's going to have to play big minutes and he's going to have to contribute because after this, I think the option to extend him's on the table. But they have to make a decision, I think, with a lot of guys this summer, whether that's to retain them, whether to trade him. I think the bench is just the bench. I think the past 2 years has been a huge issue, not only for the starters' minutes, but also like the depth of the team going into the playoffs as well. And whoever the new GM is has to really clean that up, in my opinion. But yeah, I think this is going to be a Watson series as far as he's going to have to play, but I do think he has avenues to success. And with Zeke, Ray, I'm sorry. I know you're a Ray. I know you're a Zeke guy.
You don't know this. Like, you don't know this, okay? You don't know what's gonna happen.
Listen, never say never. But I think that Zeke is I don't trust him in the playoffs. Is what I'll say. Listen, if he can give minutes, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I don't trust his offense. I don't trust the defense at this point either.
Chicken, are you fun about this?
I'm kind of leaning towards what CT's saying, especially with the intensity of the playoffs. A guy who kind of has butterfingers in the paint. I don't trust him to really finish through traffic. I don't really trust him to grab a board. His perimeter defense is pretty solid for his size, but I don't know what matchup he's going to be really, I guess, a winner at. But I think he's going to have to be our break glass in case of emergency, like 8th to 9th option off the bench. Aaron Gordon gets in foul trouble. I think he's got to be the next man up. I don't think you bring in DeAndre Jordan. I think Zeke would probably have to just be ready for those minutes. And you would just have to survive the 6 minutes AG's off the court because he's got his 5th foul with 6 minutes to go in the 4th or something. That's really what I mean by break glass in case of emergency kind of Zeke scenario for me.
Okay. I mean, I don't totally disagree. I think I've kind of tried to think about some of this second and third tier of player as who are you an understudy for? I've always thought about Peyton Watson as more of a Christian Brown understudy. Like, you're here to play defense for the most part. Hey, go finish some plays occasionally and stay out of the way. Maybe do some cutting. That's cool, but it's not about you. And that's fine. Zeke, I think it is that AG. All right, so if Zeke is on Kawhi, am I mad? No.
You're scared.
Actually, you're scared. I'm scared because foul trouble. Maybe I think that's something he's not gotten a lot of minutes at all. So playoff minutes, I don't even Fives. If you have a tracker for how many playoff minutes Zeke has in his career, I would love to know. But I'm certain it's less than 555. And I don't know how that's going to go for him in that new environment. It might go better because I feel like Zeke is a really physical guy for the most part, even though finesse, no. Physicality, sometimes. And can that be, how are they officiating this game? Is every little ticky-tack thing going to be a foul? That doesn't favor Zeke because how has he managed that? But I think if they let stuff go and you're looking for another physical body, 5 minutes a game.
What I'm seeing stat-wise, it looks like he doesn't even have 100 minutes of playoff time.
Does he have 55 minutes of playoff time? Not even 55.
We're talking 55. We're talking 55 minutes. Literally.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to write him off. I think because also the alternative is DeAndre Jordan. And that also comes with its own risks. I really by the way, I'm going to ask for a little bit of a draft preview right now. CT, is there a DeAndre Jordan who's in his early 20s who the Nuggets could draft late enough? Do they have somewhere? I don't know.
Nuggets don't have a pick this year, unfortunately. But
Oh, they don't
I
have
mean,
a
if
pick this
we're
year.
looking at like one of the better bigs in the class, I mean, I'm sure Chicken knows
All
Kamal
right, it's got to
Malavov,
be
but
like
it's not
top of the second
realistic for us.
round.
Yeah, no, there's not really any realistic.
Oh,
There's not
I'd have
like
to look at my board, but not really
who's
any
the
realistic.
is there like an
th-
athletic, just like Kenneth Fareed type of guy somewhere out there?
I'd have to dig for that.
uh, what's his
Okay,
name on the
well,
Houston Rockets? He's a power forward. Tugler, I think's his
Oh,
last
Tugler.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be
Very bad
undrafted
offensively,
free
but
agent.
good. Yeah, good defender.
I would love to
Yeah.
give Jokic just a guy he could throw lobs to again. And not to say that AG can't catch lobs, but some of the ignorant lobs that he used to throw to Fareed, I feel like would be really nice to have back as a relief valve. Just love the different something a little look they could give. Someone you could run a pick and roll with and not feel like I don't know. When you throw a lob to DJ, I get scared.
Hmm.
I feel like he needs to be in the air with his life alert on, like, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't want to trade for Lively. I don't know. We can talk about that after the playoffs. It's something I wish Denver had.
Yeah.
Are we in the picket line?
Listen,
I mean,
I've atoned for my sins. Okay, I signed the apology form, about a month ago
Hey,
don't
now.
give up
you got.
yet. Don't give up yet. Don't concede yet.
I think he's gonna play. I think Pickett is good. I'm holding on. I'm holding my stock. I think
I
Pickett
think
is
he's
good.
good enough out of the options that we have. I think that's where it comes down to. Like I would give
That's also
him a
true.
shot over whoever else is in the mix. Because Zeke's not playing. Flacco, I don't think is going to play. Sarge is, I mean,
No,
got one foot out the door already back to Europe. Uh, the options are scarce, and that's the issue. Like Hunter Tyson, are you playing in the playoffs? No. It's this is just where they are, unfortunately now. Like the only playable guys on their bench at this point are Pickett, Russ, Peyton, and DeAndre, and maybe Zeke if he's able to get back in. Maybe Adam gives him another chance, but the options are limited.
I can't bring myself to say Vlatko should play, particularly because he hasn't been playing. Like he's been playing like meme minutes. Like, oh, we have a throw off game. You can play
Right.
20 minutes tonight. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know where he is. I don't know how he feels. I do want him to stop dunking the ball, but yeah, it's a challenging spot. At the same time, when they won the championship, Jeff Green was their eighth man. Jeff Green was washed. Like even then, I'm not gonna like
He still had his ups though. He could slam that. He could still put someone on a poster somehow. So, but yeah,
Master
I mean, he
Roshi
was
comes
in a
out the
diminished
cut with a
role for sure.
Kamehameha every so often. That doesn't mean he should be out, saving the universe. Okay? Just because you can jump 3 times a day doesn't mean there's so many other times that you need to like rebound and hustle and run and do things. I just I get that he was a stabilizing factor for the team at the time, but all that is to say, if most teams winning titles have 7 guys, like if the Thunder win this year, that's an anomaly. I don't know if you can replicate what the Thunder did without a long process of playing 2K in real life. If you got 7.5 guys, like I don't feel as bad about that. I think as most people, it could be worse. And you do have the best player, so I think it's time making predictions. I'm not going to force anyone to make
Okay.
predictions, but I'm asking if you have any. If anyone wants to go first, be brave.
CT, you go ahead.
Man, I'm not good with predictions, but I'll go Nuggets in 7. First series is always a slog, I think, especially now with the turmoil that they're in. I think this is probably bound to go 7 games.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. It's pretty tough to make a prediction for me too. I always end up flip flopping, but I'm pretty sure this is going at least 6 games, if not 7. I really don't know how much of home court is a factor for the Nuggets. We've seen they haven't really played that well at home this year. The Clippers they don't have the size, so that's just something to think about. But they can be really quick with Harden. I don't really know. I'm so pessimistic. I almost want to say Clippers in 7 more than Nuggets in 7.
Wow.
But I'm on the fence. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. Like there's going to be an off night defensively for the Nuggets. We're down by 23 in the middle of the third quarter. Everybody gets the rest of the game off, kind of thing. It's going to be pretty tough, but I'll say Clippers in 7 and hope to be wrong. How about that?
Okay, so it's like, nah, you can come back. You're good. You're good. I'm not gonna. We're fair and impartial on the Four Corner podcast. I'm gonna go Nuggets in 6, and here's why. I think if they're gonna, I don't know how to put this. If the Nuggets are who I think they're becoming, they should win in 6 games. I think if it goes 7 games, I would be concerned that something has gone wrong, that it's not looking. I would almost say like Nuggets in 6 is more likely than Nuggets in 7. And that Clippers in 7 is probably second in my board, if that makes sense. That's where I am.
Ray, I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
So when you said, this is who the Nuggets are becoming, or you see who they're becoming, what does that like mean to you though? I'm curious because I kind of am interested in, after seeing their last 3 games, like what do you envision that as? Do you think is it like a new identity? Is it, maybe now that they're kind of more in tune with what Adam's bringing to the table? What do you think that is? Now that they're entering the playoffs.
I think it's a team that's on the same page, that isn't working on any like Julian Strawther type projects. And I think a team that's playing for each other. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. I think that if you are all healthy, which about as healthy, Jamal is playing. If Jamal wasn't playing, I would tell you it's a wrap. But if he's playing, we've seen what he does in the playoffs. He's having a great year when he is playing. I think Aaron Gordon having his best offensive season so far. I thought we were friends, Peter. Jesus,
is this Pete?
Now I know.
Is this Pete?
Yes,
like
it's Pete.
Our friend Pete?
Yes, this is our former friend Peter. I'm you about to get blocked, homie. No, I'm kidding. Everyone's entitled to their takes, and yeah, everyone's allowed to be wrong. But yeah, so talking about who the Nuggets are becoming, I think it's just a team that's going to play for each other, who's going to play hard, who's going to be focused and going to be motivated with the understanding that I don't want to say there's a switch that they're going to turn, but I have accepted internally in my heart, in my soul, that the Nuggets don't care about the regular season. All year, y'all played like you didn't care about the regular season. So this is it. Either you're going to step up and you're actually going to be the team you need to be and that you had in you, or you're probably going to fold. And Peter might be right, and they lose in 6 or worse. I don't know.
I think it's a good take. Actually, I think we forgot about Julian. I honestly forgot about Julian. To be honest,
I don't.
He hasn't played in.
Me too.
I have no interest. I had no interest before.
I think Julian could have a moment in this series. I just, like I said, the bench
How,
is
Sway?
the bench is slim. They might need him to come in and hit shots. The bench does not have any guys on offense that you can put in the game and be like, yeah, he's going to go on a bit of a heater. Julian could heat up in a hurry. Again, defensively, he's rough, but offensively, I think you give him a chance. I think he could swing a little bit of a momentum in the game. And again, he's been hurt for a while, so it might not happen, but I think it's possible.
Yeah. If Julian played in all 7 games, I think he would shoot well in one of the games.
Possible.
I'll give that.
Yeah,
that's all you might need.
Maybe it would be wild if Adelman can find the one game where you need him and he's locked in for. Okay, it's also the way he shoots. I don't know if you guys have these this particular opinion about the way people shoot being conducive, but guys who have that kind of like chest lower release point type flick, I feel like they're super hot that day and you can't stop them and there's nothing you can do, or they're on 1 for 8 and they're missing ugly and they're missing long and they're giving runouts, and I don't trust him any more than I trusted. Well, I mean, but Jeff Green was also bad, so I don't know. All right.
Yeah. I'm
You
sure
never know.
CT and I both analyzed his shot form coming out of that draft class.
Yep.
You know, his energy transfer is kind of a little weird. He loves to hop into his shots. I think it's really hard to find the statistics on that, but when he gets to his shot prep,
I see it
into a hop, it's almost automatic. But any other type of shot, you know, pull up or step back, that's not as consistent. And yeah, it's and this will be some of his first playoff minutes as well, so it's going to be hard to really count on him
pressure.
to produce at a high level in that kind of environment.
And like Grace has mentioned, you don't go, it's if you're going to insert him, what a time to get put in the game.
He's our Rodney Hood.
Maybe.
Oh my God.
Okay. If you guys will open your hearts and minds to Zeke playing, I can open my heart and my mind to Julian maybe playing in a game, but I'm not banking on it. I have more faith in like Zeke's hustle than I do Julian hitting threes, or even a guy who isn't. I might have more faith in Vlatko being a better shooter, not just because he's a better shooter intrinsically, but because I think he's a little bit more like thoughtful about it. I like watching a guy who knows he's open, is like, okay, I'm gonna take my time. I believe in myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna set myself and shoot with intention. And I just don't always feel like Julian shoots with intention. I think sometimes, and some of this is the team, I'm sure, encouraging him to like, hey, go do your thing, go play your game. This is your world. But yeah, I feel like he shoots sometimes just like, all right, fuck it, it's my time, and I just don't love that. I don't love that, but we'll see. Am I forgetting anyone on the roster? I'm not forgetting Hunter Tyson. I'm just not talking about him. There's nothing to talk about. He's on the end of the bench. Every team has someone on the end of the bench who sucks.
True.
Yeah, but the Nuggets have more of those guys than the common playoff team, unfortunately.
Yep.
Which ones? I don't know.
I mean, Tyson, Dario.
Nah, but like how many playoff teams in the Nuggets of like a similar position are that much deeper, but also have the Nuggets like top end talent?
Well, I think I'm kind of writing about that now. Do you think that Peyton Watson or Jalen Pickett would be playoff rotation players on any other? I don't know about contenders, I'd say, but how about playoff teams? Do you think Pickett or Watson would be rotation guys on playoff teams at the moment? That's where kind of my stance is, that there wasn't like a buffer, you know what I mean? Like between like the draft picks and like other guys.
Yeah. I think it depends, I guess. it's almost who are we talking about? Like, what is the ethos of the guy? Like,
Yeah, I
do
mean, like if
you?
we're talking the Kings, I mean, he probably would play one of those guys.
Um, I
But I'd say
think
for like a top 7 team, 6-6 team, I don't maybe in the East, but definitely in the West, I couldn't see it.
Well, I was thinking about that too. But in the Celtics, I don't think they would play on the Celtics just because the Celtics have a pretty firm, I think, 6, 7 guys already. Um, hmm. I'd have to think about that. What teams would he? None of the good ones. I mean, I can think of bad ones, right? I can think of, but also, I also go back to like how many of those teams have Denver's like. Do you have a Jokic, an AG, and a Jamal Murray, and a Michael Porter, who you're all? Some of that is financial, uh, but I think some of it also is a talent thing. Eh.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
this has been fun. I don't know if
I
you guys are feeling better or worse right now. Chicken,
I
do you have
wanted
anything
to
you want
bring
to
up
add?
one
Yeah.
more thing. We've been talking about the Nuggets a lot, but I wanted to kind of focus on something about the Clippers I don't see a lot of people talking about, and that James Harden is a perennial habitual playoff dropper.
Folder.
Like that's one of those things that hadn't really been discussed too much. I know we don't really have the best defensive personnel, but it's been, I mean, the past 4 seasons in the playoffs, James hasn't scored more than 22 points a game on average. And then if you want to look over to Kawhi, he's played 4 playoff games in the last 3 playoffs. Like not even
Wow.
4 series, four games. So there's a level to the series where you have to factor in James Harden really hasn't even been that efficient outside of 3-point range this season. His efficiency at the rim has taken a dip. His athleticism, I mean, as old as he technically is, he still has that stop and go ability, and his step back is still pretty lethal. But we you can say that about him every season, and he still was a playoff dropper with the Rockets towards the end, with the Nets towards the end, with his health, and then most recently with the Sixers. And then Kawhi, when he has looked great, he still ends up hurting himself at some point. And I don't know what the probability is on both of his knees being 100% throughout all 6 to 7 games in this series. So, I mean, I'm kind of talking against my Clippers in 7 pick, but assuming fully healthy, um, there's it's going to be a close series. But if James Harden isn't doing anything but passing the ball and Kawhi isn't healthy, I think they're a much easier beast to slay, pretty much.
It's a good point.
Counterpoint. This is also true for Denver. That
Well,
they are an AG calf pull, a Murray hamstring, a Michael Porter low back hamstring, soft tissue injury away from being a much easier matchup.
I would say at least they've played like the majority of playoff minutes in the past 3 playoff series, and Kawhi has as many playoff minutes as Zeke has in his entire career in the last 3 playoffs. So that's where I'm kind of at with at least the past history. Um, it's kind of indicative of what I with that point, but it's true. Mike lands wrong and tweaks his back. AG re-aggravates one of his soft tissue injuries. Joe has another hamstring injury. That's all in play as well. Very true.
If, like health depending, I could see like either team in 5. Honestly, like if Kawhi went, like it depend. I don't want that. I don't want that. I'd like to see a good series, but yeah, this is a very volatile 2 teams in terms of from a health perspective.
Yeah, it is.
Do we think Norm Powell is hurt at all by the return of Kawhi?
Yes. I also think he cooled down as well. I
That's
think he
true.
was just on a heater to start the year, and now he's an X factor for them though. Because if he goes off, I think the Nuggets are in trouble. Um, but I do think that Kawhi back in the mix does slash his usage a lot. Um, but yeah, I think um, putting like a Watson on him or Russ, I think. I mean, Murray's probably gonna have to guard him, I think, at the offset, but I do think with Kawhi back, it does kind of dampen his effectiveness. Because he's a guy who's like, if you run him off the 3-point line, I don't think he's that effective, honestly. Like that's going to be the scouting report on him. Run him off the 3-point line,
Yep.
make him take a shot inside the arc, and you live with it. And that's what they'll have to do. So
So I kind of feel like that maybe I think fits into the theme that I see of like, can you run James and Norman off the 3-point line and just make Kawhi's life difficult? I don't hate that, like as a strategy. Um, you might have mentioned this earlier, CT, but I've seen the Nuggets run some of that sort of 2 on ball up top defense against some of the better on ball players in the league, your SGAs, that sort of thing. Do you think we see that on Harden?
I think they'll probably go to a gimmick defense a little bit of the time. I think honestly with Harden though, you want to kind of play him. I think you just want to kind of try to wear him down though. Force him to score 60 on you. I think that'll be kind of a bit more of the play there. I think with Shea, you kind of like want to force the other guys to beat you because Shea is so good at drawing fouls, and Shea can single handedly beat you in a game. Harden, I think, could too, but I do think he's a guy who, the more you make him work, I think he'll slow down considerably on both ends.
Nuggets in 6. Let's go. Anything else before we close out that you guys want to mention, or topics, things you want to plug, anything like that?
Chicken, go ahead.
I want to just say I'm not afraid of Zubac. I've been hearing nothing but he's the best defensive player outside of like prime like Michael Jordan these last couple of weeks.
The Gobert and Towns combo was way more scary, I think, than what Zubac brings to the table.
Exactly. So I know that's probably been just overanalyzed and brought up too much on the timeline, but I'm not concerned about a Jokic matchup against him. So that's just, I feel like I have to say that from the way that I've seen the sentiment online lately. But that's my last
I think
thing.
especially with Aaron shooting as well as he has this season, it's hard for me to worry too much. It's hard for me to feel like, oh, you're going to give Aaron Gordon wide open threes. Okay. Like, we'll see. I'm kind of willing to take that bet, at least right now. So, CT, for you, anything else?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Ray. Appreciate it. Chicken, good to speak with you finally on the podcast platform. I know we've all done a spaces a lot, so it's been cool to get to know you guys and talking Nuggets, but cool to be on the pod. Thanks, Ray, for having me on. Go get your, what is it, the cookies? I retweeted.
Oh yeah, I'm selling baked goods. Yes,
baked goods. Go get Ray's
chocolate chip
goods.
and salted caramel cookies.
Ooh, I hope your bowling is going, definitely for sure. Hope your bowling is going well.
I'm bowling well. I'm averaging 214, my best season so far. We're coming down the last couple of weeks. Should be fun. And then I get a break, which will also be nice. Yeah.
Not bad.
Some tournaments in the future.
Great. I have my Nuggets piece coming out soon, toward the end of the playoffs. Kind of put like a sneak peek on the timeline the other day, a little bit. Yeah, it's like my Malone boot section. And then I don't know, Chicken, about you, but I got my big board coming out, volume 2. So I had a volume 1 a couple weeks ago, came out. Got a volume 2 big board coming out because the draft is quickly approaching.
Yeah,
and it's not really like a Nuggets thing because they don't have any picks, and I know everybody's kind of
that's a bummer
draft on that side, but got just more of a general kind of perspective on the draft as well coming out. So looking forward to that dropping soon. But college basketball was a fun year, really fun year. So looking forward to putting that out for sure, in the coming weeks.
Any future spaces planned?
I wanted to do one tonight, but I think it's going to be too late by the time I get off. So Maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll put something out tonight, and hopefully you guys can join tomorrow. Then I was gonna do it last night. I fell asleep because I've been working late, and then I was almost late
I
for the pod
understand.
today. So
You're
hopefully
good.
tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we can do it. Get a little preview going.
Okay, sounds good. We'll definitely give
Cool.
CT a follow. You can follow him at CTFazio24. NBA Chicken, you are at NBA Chicken, if I have it
Think so.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. You can find me at Rayvon Hackshaw. Peter, not available tonight to go, but you can find him at Bucketsons88. And yeah, drop us a like, homies, friends, compatriots, like and subscribe. It's free. Okay, stop playing. And yeah, we appreciate the support, and we will see you next time. Thanks.